So for a very long time, not to go too back into the history, I knew that I personally wanted to stay in tennis. I never dreamed about diversifying or going into any other area of life or business for that matter. So because of that, in 2012, I believe, we founded our first academy, which started actually very small on 3 courts. And even though it was only 3 courts, we called it an academy from the very beginning, from a specific reason, which our main focus was player development. I have nothing against commercial academies, but I always wanted that the academy that represents me and my name is mainly focused on high performance. 1 academy turned into 2, 2 turned into 3, 3 turned into 4. Hopefully the 5th one is coming up this year, and this is all in Belgrade in Serbia, with several other locations worldwide. But if we talk specifically about Belgrade, our number 1 goal, and this is not just me, talking, this is actually who we are, that the main goal is actually high performance and player development. These are not just words, these are facts about many good players, both ATP, WTA, and juniors that we created over the last year. And as I always say, the attention of the coaches that are working with their players. Going to the facts, not just talking words. Every single coach in our academy is dealing with 3, maximum sometimes 4 players. And every single player that is being coached in our academy is having a session with his or her coach, alone with the coach, or maximum with 1 additional player. This is why the demand was the demand. Outside of the quality that I believe, without being arrogant or pretentious, that we're the best high-performance player development academy in the world. And again, I have nothing against commercial academies. This is why the demand has been very high, especially in the last several years, because players feel that. They feel that these things that I'm saying, that this is a high performance academy, is not just me, talking on a microphone. This is actually a pure fact, what a player, irrelevantly of the age or gender, is getting when they come to our academy. A coach that is dedicated for him or her, 3, 4, irrelevantly how much is necessary hours of tennis per day, 1 to 2 hours of fitness. And I always say to all of the players that want to join us, be ready to work hard. This academy that we are doing, because you're focused on player development, even though Belgrade is an amazing city, and especially growing in the last several years, the main focus of the academy is on player development. Having that being said, we give opportunities to all of our players to focus only on tennis, simply because us and our team is taking care of everything else. This means that a player is having his or her room, most of the time staying alone, sometimes sharing with a friend, and then having an incredible restaurant on site obviously helps, where the meals are provided a la carte. It's not a buffet table, it's like a la carte meals from breakfast, lunch, dinner, with everything potentially being able to be tailor-made for the player that is coming. So if a player is wanting to eat more meat or more pasta or more fish or whatever, this is an easy fix for us. The thing that we pride ourselves on is that all of our coaches and fitness coaches and physiotherapists are working as a unit. One of the biggest problems of every single academy is that you will see, and I saw this myself, that coach on court number 1 is saying one philosophy, coach on court number 2 is saying something else, coach on court 3 is saying something third. I'm not a believer in that. I believe that the academy needs to have its identity, and the main part, if we're going purely in the technical aspect of things that we focus, is the biomechanics of movement. I feel that this part is grossly underestimated by most of the coaches, not only in Serbia, but worldwide. And the part of the biomechanics of movement, footwork, and how players are being positioned on court is grossly underestimated. Because the main attribute and the focus that we have is that, I believe this is one of the reasons why we had so much success over the last several years. Without bad-mouthing the competition, because I want to prove our worth by somebody coming and seeing things for themselves, not by me talking bad stuff about the competition, especially not in Serbia or anywhere else. The main difference is attention to detail, where our coaches, when they're working, as I said, the first number one thing, I believe that the coach physically cannot have a capability or mentally to take care from more than 3, maximum 4 players. When I say take care, this is not only the 2, 3, 4 hours of work in terms of improving somebody's forehand or backhand. This coach needs to be in sync completely with the player that he is coaching. This means taking care, working, and I mentioned in the beginning the importance of the team, working together what this player specifically needs on fitness in order to improve his or her game. It's not that we put 10 players in a gym and everybody does the same, even though you have generalized fitness trainings, which you do. But when a coach is taking care of 3 or 4 players, this gives him an opportunity to focus on details in improving not only somebody's game, but somebody's ranking, somebody's tournament schedule, somebody's fitness, somebody's health, where the tennis coaches get basically the leader of the caravan. When the tennis coach is working closely with the fitness coach and the physiotherapists that we have, which are all ATP, WTA experienced, this gives the coach opportunity and time and freshness of the mind that they can actually take care of the player. When a coach in high commercial academies is dealing with 3, 4 players on court, and in totality, we say coaching, but I don't call that coaching, 8 to 10 players, there is no way that their attention to necessary details to improve that particular player's game, therefore to improve their ranking. I'm going to talk about, let's say, the age group of a 15-year-old boy. But the age group of 15-year-old boy is the same. We have also a program for under 13, if somebody is way younger than that. But I'm saying a 15-year-old boy or a girl, doesn't matter, is generally the same program that an ATP/WTA player has. I am a big believer, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but especially in the beginning stages of somebody's tennis journey, I am a big believer in volume. I don't believe that you can improve a young player simply by practicing 1 or 2 hours per day. This needs to be significantly more, obviously working on the right details and the right things. But in my opinion, especially in a young player's tennis journey, there needs to be a volume of practice where the coach is working on specific things and forcing the player to keep the focus, especially in this day and age. This is why I warn everybody that is coming, not in a bad way, be ready. It's not going to be easy. Not simply because of making a player tired, that the coach takes a basket and plays 100 times left or right, and then to say, okay, this is a tough academy. The difficult part or the challenging part is that the coaches are very demanding towards the players, especially the young players, to keep the focus of the entirety of the time spent on court. This is the challenging thing. The normal day in the academy works if a player hypothetically has a practice at 10 a.m., that the breakfast is served somewhere between, I imagine, 8 and 9. Again, it's not like breakfast for every single player is at that time. No, the breakfast time is that, and then the player comes, has breakfast, does a mandatory 20-minute warm-up in the gym with our fitness coach, goes on court from 10 to 12. In the meantime, has lunch and rest, has the second tennis practice from 3 to 5, and then after that, every single day outside of Sunday, has a fitness practice after that. Now, obviously, as I say, if a player is sick or injured or doesn't feel well, we are tailoring a little bit the schedule in terms of what he or she needs to do. But if you can see, there's a big volume of practice every day, which comes to, in its totality, to 5, maybe sometimes 5.5 hours. In my opinion, if somebody is coming to our academy and is dreaming about becoming an ATP, WTA, or a very good college player, there needs to be volume of time spent on court. In terms of the physiotherapeutic dates, we don't have specific dates because, again, it's very tailor-made towards the player. When is the next tournament? What was the practice schedule? What was the fitness schedule? But we have one of the best physiotherapists in the world. And I can give you, in Serbia, we say I can give you my right hand for it, that are dealing with any kind of issues, problems, or injuries that the players may have. I have been playing tennis for 32 years. Started when I was 6 years old. And I was one of the few players, maybe the only one who actually decided to become a good player or a top player by staying in Serbia, where the vast majority of my colleagues unfortunately had to do practice outdoors. I don't mean outdoors, I mean in a different country. This gave me the insight over the vast majority of years and experience to choose the coaches which I believe are best for our academy. In my opinion, when we choose coaches, it's not about the CV of the coach, because I saw a lot of times, I don't know how you say it in Russian, but I see a lot of times where coaches are selling smoke simply by presenting their CV, which doesn't necessarily mean that they are actually good coaches. This is just, okay, I coached some player for some time and then I have another player. So when I'm going job hunting, I'm presenting you with my CV. We choose coaches. Obviously, CV plays a part of it. But for us, the main criterion in choosing the coaches, where we have basically a line of people waiting to try and become coaches of our academy, it's more about the psychological profile of a particular coach. There obviously are parameters in terms of their CV, playability, English speaking, and stuff like that. But for me personally, and I don't mean to sound too hard right now, the coach needs to be obsessed. The coach needs to be, I don't want to say to a degree crazy, but completely obsessed and buying in 100% in the way that we are coaching our players. This means that players, the academy, but essentially the players that any particular coach is coaching is not only a small part of their life as their job. No, this needs to become not a complete part of their life, because obviously most of our coaches have families and wife and kids, but a huge part of their life. So the care of the players is our number one priority. And in order to have that, you need to have, again, maybe obsessed is too strong of a word, but incredibly dedicated coaches. And for me, this is way more important than somebody showing me a CV that they coached a top player in quarterfinals of Wimbledon. I am very much so. I am still doing a little bit of coaching on tour. I am currently coaching two ATP players, Filip Krajinovic and Borna Ćorić. This is taking some of my time in terms of traveling for around 15 weeks per year. Obviously, some of the time I spend in my office, but the large part of my time, whenever I have time, I actually spend on the tennis court. Because for me, this is not only business. For me, this is a way of life. And I know this sounds completely crazy, but sometimes or very often, even though I was number 8 in the world, I enjoy coaching way more than I enjoyed playing. Even when I was a young kid, I always enjoyed more giving an assist that somebody scores a goal, giving an assist that somebody scores a basket. So I believe I found my passion simply because of the drive that I am having, and spending every single second I have on the tennis court. The one part of this is spending time with players in terms of maybe seeing something that the coach doesn't see, which very rarely happens. But the main part is, for me, dedicating my time to my team and to my coaches. Because if I am purely walking from court to court and fixing something that a player is doing wrong, I'm just undermining the authority of my coach and flexing my ego, which I believe this is wrong. The real time that I am spending is obviously with the players, but more with my team in terms of formulating and creating a plan for all of our players, what we believe the next important step needs to be in their tennis life. We have players of all ages. We are not a huge academy. We have only 12 courts, and again, we are almost always completely full, with potentially another location coming soon. The big part, the culture that I have established in the very beginning, it's not about age or gender. It's about the level of the player. So it's not like this girl is 14 years old. She needs to practice with a 14-year-old girl. If the other girl is not on her level, she will practice with a 16-year-old boy. So the big part about us, and we have young players of 13, we have junior players, we have players that are just starting their future and challenger tour. We have a couple of ATP players, a WTA player. So we have a vast majority of players, and even though the group is not incredibly big, which, you know, I guess I never want to have 1 million players, because then I believe the quality goes everywhere. My big thing, or our big thing in creating a suitable environment for the player, is the level of the opposition. This means that if a player is practicing good with a certain group of players, this is the group of players, this may be 3, 4, 5, 10, that they are generally practicing with. It's not about, this is a 16-year-old boy and he has to practice with this coach and this 16-year-old girl. It's all about the level, because if the level is compatible, you can create progress and good practices. If the level is not compatible, then the other one of the players is going to suffer and not improve as rapidly as we need. The older I am, because I have experience in playing and now coaching, I am very careful, and all my team is very careful in choosing words in terms of selling smoke. Why do I say this? There are two parts when you assess a player. This is the current state that he or she is in. And then you assess that state with the history, how he or she came to this position. Where did you practice? Who was your coach? What did you do on fitness? Did you do any recovery? What was your tournament schedule and everything else? And then when we take that assessment outside of the several, let's say, tryout practices where you check physically, you check with your eyes, the test of the player, how she or he is playing, then you start together with the player creating goals. Why do I say this? In the academy world, I see a lot of smoke selling, where a young, potentially talented player is coming, that coaches or academies are selling smoke in terms of saying, oh, he's going to be a Wimbledon champion, or he's so talented that there's no way he or she will not succeed. You need to be very careful when you choose those words, because the other part, which is the psychological aspect of how much willingness the player has to work and sacrifice, plays a big attribute in what is the end game for that every player. And this we cannot assess in the first week or a month. So I'm always saying, very similarly how we choose coaches, we have the tendency to be, I don't want to say we never choose favorites and we never choose sides, but it's always easier for our team to work with players that have this self-initial drive. That the players that, even if they have tremendous technical capabilities or very talented, if that word even exists, that they have an initial drive to become a good junior, a good WTA player, a good ATP player, or even a good college player. There is, again, I feel I'm bad mouthing the competition now, but this is not about academies. I am probably one of the few, we are probably one of the few academies that is encouraging parents to be involved. Because generally in the world of tennis, you have this, okay, parents are crazy, let's just put them over there. I don't believe that this is true. Our team has a mandatory, but even though they do it willingly, this is because this becomes their second nature, outside of answering to the academy for the results of every single particular player, they have also on their to-do list that they have to, I don't want to say answer or defend their case, but informing the progress of the player to the parents or whoever is deciding to send them there. Even if they don't want it, we do it in terms of Zoom video calls, phone calls, tennis reports, fitness reports, medical reports. So we want the parents of the players to be actually involved in terms of knowing what is happening with their child. It's not to say, okay, you're not, okay, we obviously have a problem if a parent wants to interfere in fixing somebody's backhand technique. We don't do that. Then we just say, sorry, we are probably not the right fit for you. You need to go somewhere else. But in terms of informing the parents or the relatives or whoever wants to be informed in terms of the progress of the player, I am very big in that because I believe this is very important for the player's success. Serbia is very favorably geographically positioned when it comes to the tournament scheduling. Why do I say this? We have a tremendous amount of local tournaments if we're talking about a very young player. If a player is 12 years old or 11 or 13, there is a big part of national tournaments what he or she can play. And the second part, especially during the spring and summertime, in local countries and also in Serbia, there is a large percent of junior and also future tournaments. This helps, and okay, now I'm maybe going into somebody else's wallet, but you know, it's why not to save money if it's possible. This goes very favorably to the logistics of saving money for traveling. This means that if somebody is coming from South America, the only way that they can play tournaments is probably travel in Europe during spring and summertime. Where, because Serbia is so well positioned, it's very favorable that the vast majority of these destinations, which are decided and determined by the coach and the player, are actually a car drive away, a train drive away. So it's not that you have to fly to Alaska to play a tournament. There is a big part, again, I'm saying especially in spring and summer, of tournaments which are able for players to play and compete in different levels in a very, very short circle. A car drive away, a train drive away, even if it's a flight, it's no more than 1.5 hour flight away. A great question, and a question that we are getting. I still feel sometimes that some of the parents or maybe some of the players don't understand the value of American college. Even though Serbia as a nation is incredibly close to Russia, there is significant value in going to America on a top-end college and potentially saving your family the money for the education, which they would maybe need to pay $300,000 to go into some of these colleges. Last year, we actually had two examples of two players that went from our academy on a full scholarship. One of them went to Cornell and the other one went to Columbia on a full scholarship. I tell you, I was so happy for them. I felt like one of our players won Wimbledon. I don't want to be overly dramatic, but I considered this a huge success. We have good connections with some of the American colleges. We have a great company that is also helping us to do that. And then this pathway needs to be predetermined, first of all, by the player or the parents' wishes. That at one point, the goal needs to be to say, okay, our goal for the next year is to apply to the best American colleges to be able to get a degree potentially one day. There are two aspects of that, and both of them are undeniable. Number one is the quality of how good do you play tennis. Because don't think, I know you don't, but maybe some of the parents, there is no way that you get a full scholarship by a good or a top-end American college if you don't play high-quality tennis. This is not just, I practice a little bit and then I'm going to get a scholarship in Cornell. No, this boy that went practiced 4 or 5 hours every day. And the second part is the tournament schedule. Once the goal becomes more clear, that the actual goal is that in the next period of time, 6 months or 1 year or whatever, is that this particular player goes to an American university, then the whole scheduling is being tailor-made so that his or her UTR ranking, because this is apparently what American colleges are looking at, that his or her UTR ranking is being boosted up. And then you give priority to the UTR tournaments as opposed to maybe going to some futures or challenges or something like that. But this is, okay, maybe right now after 2 years, I can say that it's easily doable. It just needs to be prioritized with the player and our team. I am very happy that we are having a very big interest even before we started collaborating, but especially with you, especially in the ex-Soviet Union countries. I personally feel very close and very connected with that part of the world. I had for over 10 years a Russian coach. So I'm actually I had for over 10 years a Russian coach who was actually made me a player who I am. Very frequently, even though this is not a popular demand, I am coming to Russia, especially now with this geopolitical situation. And I just have to say I'm very, very grateful and happy that players are also recognizing the quality of how we do our work. It's not just saying because Янко was a good player or is promoted on Instagram or whatever. It's actually the quality of the product is not only about players coming, but deciding to stay. This is what I'm always saying to my team. Players will come, but the real appreciation for our work is the decision to stay. And a huge percentage of players, and we have this, which is actually screwing our logistics a little bit. They come for a week, they end up staying for 3 months. They come for 3 months, they want to stay for 1 year. And this is not because we do marketing. This is because we actually do good work on court.